Hello students, last class we are discussing about common human diseases caused by microorganisms. So in this way we already learned about one of the disease and their symptoms and their preventive measures also. We call it is a TB, tuberculosis. Is it right, student? So if you look at the other diseases like measles, chickenpox and polio, what is common in these three? They're caused by viruses. Is it right, student? These three are caused by the viruses. I already told you that the viral diseases cannot be cured because the medicines cannot directly act on virus. So it's very complicated because the viruses do not have their own metabolism. So here these three diseases also spread by air. Air is the medium which spread the chickenpox, measles and polio. But how can we prevent that? But in vaccines, is it right, student? We can also prevent by the vaccines. Vaccines are available for measles, chickenpox and polio, which are given to the small children at the age of 6 months or 12 months or 18 months. These vaccines processes are given to the small children and the oral polio vaccines are given up to 5 years age. Is it right? So, by that the polio can be prevented. So, here the prevention is the one of the best measure to avoid the diseases. Now, the other one and next category, cholera, typhoid. This cholera and typhoid are caused by the bacteria. A mode of transmission is cholera by food and as well as also typhoid by the contaminated water. The water which contains bacteria which cause typhoid and cholera. Cholera, it causes motion and vomiting. When we consuming contaminated food or water, it leads to cholera generally. The disease like cholera, it spreads in certain situation like when there is the natural disasters like a tsunami or a flood. So when there are floods, the water overflows, the drinking water get contaminated with the drainage. Is it right? And the polluted water, especially during the rainy season when the drainages are overflow, especially during floods when the river water or a pond water is get exposed to sewage water, the water get contaminated. In those particular situation, we see that the water bodies get polluted, contaminated by the microorganism. In such cases, we see the cholera. When this disease are happening, sanitation is a very important. The proper sanitation, drinking boiled water, the properly cooked food, the food should be properly cooked at certain temperature to kill any microorganism to in their food. The properly cooked food and the purified drinking water or the boiling water. So let us see the hepatitis B. This is caused by virus and it is also spread by water and contaminated food. It affects the liver. So here also we should drink the purified water and healthy food. And finally, so it's one of the disease. It's the malaria. The malaria is caused by the pathogen protozoa. The name we called it is. It's also one of the protozoa. So this protozoa how this malaria spread by mosquito. So what do we do here? I already told you the mosquito population has to be controlled. That means we should see that there is no stagnant water at all. If you do not provide ground water for breeding the mosquito to cannot breed, they cannot grow, it means we should see that there is no stagnant water in our surrounding. So you control the mosquito population. So these are the preventive measures. So we see certain diseases that are caused by microorganisms in human. So microorganisms, they cause diseases not only humans, they cause diseases in animals as well as in plants, even in cattle food and mouth. The cattle, likewise, so many diseases are caused in poultry, in fishes, and for prawns. So these diseases are controlled by applying some of the vaccines. Already we learned the uses of microbes. Is it right, student? And the antibiotic. So now let us see the certain plant diseases and the pathogen and mode of transmission. Here the citrus canker. It is a disease. It is caused by bacteria and mode of transmission is air, and the rest of wheat disease is caused by the fungus, and the transmission is either by air or the contaminated seeds. And other one is yellow vein mosaic of okra, is nothing but the bendi, and it is caused by virus and it is spread by insects. And so these are examples from which we can see how the diseases like citrus canker, rust of wheat, and yellow vein mosaic okra, how they are transmitted and what pathogen causes these diseases. So by this we can understand microorganisms cause disease in animals, in humans as well as in plants. Now let us see another topic, the food poisoning. What is, student? Food poisoning. So what is this food poisoning? The microorganism, they feed on the uncovered food or a cooked food or the food items which are exposed to air and moisture. Say we eat food, we the prepare of the breaking fast, lunch and dinner when they are hot. When they are hot, we serve them and we eat. It is the best practice to eat the freshly cooked food items. And if you bought some vegetables or fruits, you do not leave there sometimes. What can you do? You store them in a refrigerator, because you left outside, there is a chance by which the certain fungus, the fruits and vegetable may get spoiled, so they lose their nutritive value, so it may contaminate it. Eating such contaminated food, eating such spoiled food, it leads to food poisoning. The food poisoning is a condition which causes illness in the human. So always we should eat proper food, that is fresh food. Even though it is cooked or uncooked, it should be fresh. If it is contaminated by microorganisms, it leads to food poisoning. It causes fever, some of the severe illnesses. Sometimes it may cause death also, student. So there are certain symptoms. Immediately you may get stomach pain, you may get vomiting, so you may get nervous. Yes, and these kind of symptoms are show, and finally sometimes it may lead to death also. Immediately the person has to be treated for the food poisoning, because when the food is spoiled by microorganism, the microorganism produce the toxins. These toxins sometimes very much poisonous and very harmful. If they are mixed up with our blood, they may lead to death also. So food should be properly preserve, the first best practice is do not it preserve the food. Somewhat one of the best practice, if you get the food fresh, cook it, eat it, that all preservation is the second option. Sometimes when the food is plenty and you want only little, the remaining food you cannot waste, you can throw it out, because you should not waste the food. You cannot throw it out because you should not waste the food, student. So in the second option is store in the food properly, that is called as a food preservation. There are different techniques by which we can store the food. The best practice and well-known practice is that the refrigerator. Everything we store in refrigerator, even in refrigerator, you can preserve the items only for certain periods. Certain food items can be preserved very long time by other methods. Now we are going to look at the different methods of food preservation. So let us see the different techniques of food preservation. So food where it is excess, the plenty, and has to be properly stored, and it should be protected from attack of microorganism. Otherwise food gets spoiled, and such food we eat, it leads to food poison. So how can we preserve the food? The first, let us see the chemical method. Okay, by applications of certain chemicals to preserve the food, the basic household chemical like salt, sugar and oils are used to preserve certain food items. So apart from that, salt and sugar, certain chemicals are used to preserve the food. Especially sodium benzoate, sodium bisulfite, they are the certain chemicals which are used to preserve the some food items like jams, squashes. Of course, there are so many different kind of chemical preservative are used to preserve the process the pre-processed food items. Is it right, student? Some of the semi-cooked food items. Nowadays, if we go for a mall, there you find a different kind of food items in different stages. You find raw food items, you find semi-cooked food items. They are using preservatives. And next one, the common salt. Salt is the is used to preserve the different food items. Salt is used to preserve the mango, fish, prawns. And next one is sugar. Sugar syrup also prevent the growth of microbes. So the thick sugar syrup jams are made by using sugar syrup in sweets that are made. So using the thick sugar syrup, they are not easily spoiled by the microorganism, because getting the thick sugar syrup will not allow the growth of any microorganism. And next is oil and vinegar. Oil are used in pickles. When a pickle is prepared to use the plenty of oil, you see that the pickle bottle is totally covered by the layer of oil. Is it right, student? It does not allow the microorganism to spoil the food items. And the same time, vinegar is also mixed up in certain food items. Generally, basically they are mixed up with ginger garlic paste. Likewise, so many food items for preserving the vinegar is added to it. So it will prevent the growth of the microorganism. And another one is, it is a cold and heat treatment. We discussed that if you keep the food in refrigerator, that is the low temperature, so we can preserve it. And certain food items like prawn, fish, so like exported to other countries, all those items are packed in ice at very low temperature. So in refrigerator, somewhat in a very low temperature or in ice pockets or in a refrigerator container, the fish and prawns are stored. The certain food items, it can be preserved by heat treatment. So what is that? Milk. Milk is pasteurized to preserve for a long time. What is pasteurization? The boiling milk up to 70 degrees Celsius till the 15 to 30 in 30 seconds only. Yes, the milk heat up to 70 degrees Celsius till 15 to 30 seconds. Then it is cool. Then we preserve the milk for a long time. So again, when we heating the milk, and again we can chill it, the milk. So this process is called as a pasteurization. Why is called as a pasteurization? This method, it was found by Louis Pasteur. He is one of the well-known scientists. Then he also give the contribution about the microorganism. So in honor of him, his name is given to pasteurization. So this is the heat treatment method. So what is the last method here? We have seen the chemical method, the common salt, sugar, oil and vinegar, cold and heat treatment. And now storage and packing. So what is the storage and packing? Nowadays, the packaging technology has developed a lot advanced materials are brought into packing. So in this packing, the machinery also developed. Earlier, there was no such machinery to pack the food items. Nowadays, vacuum pack is available. The vacuum packing, in the sense, when the food is dry, the food is packed in a cover, and the air present in the cover is somewhat the nitrogen air is also used, is removed, so there is no air. In an airless condition, the food is packed, so it is not spoil the microorganism. It is called as a vacuum packing. Tetra packing or 6-layer packing. The 6th layer of different materials, they packed the food. So now the organisms no organisms are entered into the food item. Even milk, fruit juices and many of the items are packed in a such way, so that the advancement of the packing technology, the food items are packed in such materials in which the food is not spoiled for and preserved for a very long time. So this is the era of packed food. If you go to market, everything you find it in a pocket format. Is it right, student? So even the curries, even the rice, even the biryani, whatsoever which you cook at home or a hotel, it's all available in the form of packets. The only thing you need to do it, if you just get the pocket and it open it and eat it and have it. So all these are very instant food. So here the food is pre-cooked and it is preserved with certain chemicals. After adding this chemical, the proper packing is done, and after packing, the storage at proper, then we can store the food material in a proper temperature. All these techniques are applied to make the cooked food instantly cooked foods available to us. So we are taking use of the technology, but if something somewhere it goes wrong, so where? Yes, student. So the packing technology is very developed, but you see the packing got leakage, otherwise somewhat it destroy the packing, the food may got spoiled. And the same way, the excess usage of chemical to preserve the food is not good for health. And the preserved food, of course, they may not be getting spoiled but may carry certain viruses. So the technique must be properly applied. Whatever the different techniques are there, they should be properly applied. The proper standards are to be maintained in applying all these things, and there should be proper quantity limits. The food and government authority should inspect that whether the properly using the proper preservatives or not in proper quantity or not. Otherwise, they damage the health of the public. You see so many pickles packing, the packed pickles, the packed food items. You see that the preservation is added. The preservative number, it's 0902, is added. You know what is 0902? You do not have any information with us, so that should the concern of the government take off the health, so the food preservation methods are to prevent the food getting spoiled by microorganisms. So these methods help us to avoid the wastage of food and preserve the food or the further use. But the best choice is that eating fresh food, fresh vegetables, fresh nuts, fresh milk, everything fresh, it will be having 100% nutritive value. So the preserved food may not guarantee the 100% nutritive value. It may losing certain amount of its nutritive value. The certain nutritive in the food becomes inactive, and because of this preservation, here the concept is that how to protect the food from microorganisms. So we are learning that the different possibilities by which we can prevent the spoilage of the food by microorganisms. Is it right, students? So we can appreciate how some more term. Sorry. So let us see the nitrogen fixation. The role of microorganism in nitrogen fixation, which is a very important thing for the plants, because plants for their growth they need proteins. To make up the proteins, plants require the nitrogenous substances. So these nitrogenous substances are present in the soil as the plants are continuously grown up. The crops are rotated, the crops are growing, the crop by crop, the nitrogenous compounds present in the soil used by the plants, how they are replenished, how they are recharged, how the nitrogenous compound being added to the soil again and again. So this is all happens in a cycle. So let us understand the nitrogen fixation and role of microorganism through this nitrogenous cycle. Certain leguminous plants, the plants especially the pulses, the plants green gram, Bengal gram, the groundnut, these are all called legume plants. So the legume plants, they have some nodules on their root. They are called as root nodules. The root nodules, they consist of the bacteria. We call it's a rhizobium bacteria. What is that bacteria does? The soil, it contains certain bacteria. The root nodules of this legume plants, they consist of rhizobium, which helps in fixing of atmospheric nitrogen. The air contains the 78% of nitrogen, but this nitrogen cannot directly add up to the soil. It is done only in two ways. One is lightning. You know the lightning and thunders. So when there is a lightning, at that time the certain atmospheric nitrogen fixed to the compounds of the soil. That is a very rare situation. What is the other main thing? The nitrogen fixing bacteria, like a blue green algae. It fixes the nitrogen into nitrogenous compounds. These nitrogenous compounds are further converted into some other form by which they can mix up with the soil, the compound of nitrogen. So nitrogen fixing bacteria or blue-green algae fix the atmospheric nitrogen into certain nitrogenous substances. So these nitrogenous substances are converted to compounds of nitrogen. That means which can be easily assimilated by the plant. So these nitrogenous compounds are taken by plants and also absorbed by the plants. the plants they grow up, the plant bear the fruits, grain and all which contain the protein. Is it right? So the plants eaten by animals, humans, we are eating the some of the pulses or grains which contain the protein, which contain the nitrogen. So the animals are consuming the nitrogen from plants, and the animals after utilizing the energy food and excrete the waste. And if the animals are died, the dead bodies of the animals and excretory material of animals contain the nitrogen. So the nitrogenous compound is present in dead bodies and excreta of animals. It decomposes again to nitrogenous gas by the bacteria. The denitrifying bacteria, here it is a nitrifying bacteria, the nitrogen fixing bacteria, here denitrifying bacteria. So both the places the bacteria plays, the microorganism plays an important role in fixing the nitrogen. And again from the soil taking nitrogen to the atmosphere. So the denitrifying bacteria, it decomposes the nitrogenous compound and nitrogen gas is again released to atmosphere. So the percentage of nitrogen in atmosphere is constant at 78% always. It maintains so the nitrogen, so it is rotating from atmosphere to the soil to the atmosphere. Through this nitrogen cycle in which the plant animals are part of the nitrogen cycle, they are once is running the cycle, the microorganism fixing the nitrogen. The same different microorganism, bacteria, they are denitrified. So the different types of microorganism, may certain microorganism fix the nitrogen, the certain microorganism denitrified the nitrogen compounds to release the nitrogen gas into atmospheric. So see that the wonderful mechanism by which the nitrogen is rotated, which is operated by microorganism. So we can appreciate how well these microorganisms are helping the nature to carry out various other processes like photosynthesis for the growth of plants, for the growth of animals. So see that how all the other organism, the living structure of the other organism is connected to this microorganism. So the microorganisms are very much helpful for the animals, plants as well as humans. And of course we see microorganism causing diseases, the preventive measure. So we conclude that microorganism, they are friendly at the same time. Certain microorganisms are our enemies, but somehow with the advancement of science and technology we have studied about them, and we started making the more and more beneficial thing with the microorganism. And at the same time we found somewhat the preventive measure to control the disease caused by the microorganism, and we found antibiotics to control the disease and cure the disease. So we have got the complete knowledge of microorganism, and with that knowledge we are able to protect or preserve the food items not getting spoiled by microorganism. And the study of microorganism is called as microbiology. When you study the microbiology, you will get the complete knowledge about the microorganisms. So this is about your microorganism friends and full lesson. Thank you, students.